Okay, so let us continue our lecture on the formula of crime causation under the subject theories of crime causation. So, your lecturer is Darlito Bernard G. Delizo, known as Tatay D, Sir D, and Dr. D. So, those who are new to my channel, you are welcome, and you are also welcome to subscribe my channel and press the notification bell. Again, the objective of this subject is that it is expected that at the end of the lecture, the learners should be able to identify and determine what are the classifications of crime in the Philippine setting. Take note, it is in the Philippine setting. And to state briefly the formula of crime causation, and we are going to take on the crime formula as set forth by Abraham or by David Abrahamsen. In the country or in the Philippines, the types of crime classifications are felony, offense, and misdemeanor. But first thing first, what is a crime? Well, crime could be any act that is punishable by a criminal law. But of course, to have a comprehensive discussion on what is the generic, we call it definition of a crime, it is referring actually to any. So it's a generic term. Whether it is punishable by any kind of law, we call it crime. So referring to any act of commission or omission punishable by a law commanding or forbidding it. So you have the word of commission, meaning you did something. Just like you stab somebody or you stab a person or you killed a person, okay? You stole something like that, that is an act of commission. When you say an act of omission, that is you fail to do something. You fail to perform your duty, and that is an omission. And take note, it could be a crime or it is a crime if there is a law commanding or forbidding it and it provides for punishment. On the other hand, when we say felony, it is specifically referring to any crime that is punishable by revised penal code. So, whatever crime that are stated in your criminal law book 2 of the revised penal code, they are called felony. So, however, there are laws in there are crimes in the revised penal code that are amended by special laws. They are still felonies because originally they are felonies. But generally, when we say offense, we are referring to any criminal act punishable by special law, by Republic Act, by presidential decrees, by Batasang Pambansa, or any special law for that matter, any special penal law. And misdemeanor, on the other hand, these are criminal acts which are violated by ordinances. In the Philippines, when we say ordinances, we are referring to city or municipal ordinances. We have also the biblical perspective of what is crime. In the Bible, any crime is considered a sin. Okay, so anything, any crime, anything that is, we call it a violation of a criminal law, anything that is a violation of the law of a land or the law of the country can be considered as a sin. And the argument now in the Bible is that in the Garden of Eden, in the fall of man, man became a sinner by nature. So it became a sinner by nature. So it says in there that we are created by virtue of sin. What does it mean by that? Well, some say that we inherited the original sin, and others say we inherited the sinful nature. On the we call it the Roman Catholics. We call it stand on the teaching that what we inherited is the original sin. But on the Protestant side, the evangelicals, the Pentecostals, and other Christian denominations, most of them stand on the we call it teaching that what we inherited is the sinful nature of man. Well, I stand on the teaching that we inherited the sinful nature of man. And we call it adapting that teaching that man inherited the sinful nature. Well, it will go with the discussions on why people commit crimes. Okay, so all crimes are sin. That is in the Bible, but not all sins are crimes if there is no law punishing such act. That is now in the mindset of the world. That is now the mindset of human beings, or we call that the secular things, that not all sins are crimes as long as there is no law punishing such act. So if there are any sin in the Bible in which there is no law punishing such act, then that is not a crime. Say for example, in the eating of blood. In the Bible, eating of blood is considered as sin. And of course, there is no law punishing such or prohibiting for the eating of blood in our laws. So therefore, that is not considered as a crime. To explain further, it is a sin to get envious. Okay? For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. That's according to James chapter 3, verse 16. Just like the Lord Jesus Christ, when you feel bad or when you are thinking maliciously against another person, it's already a sin. But in our criminal laws, thinking maliciously, or if you are thinking bad things against a person, that is not a crime. That is in our criminal laws. Because in our criminal law, taking from the definition of what is a crime, crime is any act or omission, meaning you did something. So by mere thinking maliciously towards another person, it will not make you a criminal in our criminal laws or in our secular laws. But in the Bible, you are already considered as a sinner. So just like if you are to think maliciously, or if you are going to think, or if you are going to sexually desire a woman, according to the Bible, according to the Lord Jesus Christ, you are already committing the sin of adultery. And in our laws, of course, we know what is that adultery. But another thing, the Lord Jesus Christ said that if you feel hatred against your brother and you are not forgiving him, it's tantamount to killing or murdering that person. In our criminal law, murder is the actual act of killing something. Okay? That is the idea. But in the Bible, evil thinking is already considered as a sin. So, of course, this James chapter 3, verse 16, it says in here that feeling envy is not yet a sin or is not a crime as long as you have not harmed anyone else. Okay, so let us discuss the questions now. We are now in question number 5. Which of the following is not a felony? Okay, it is not a felony. Well, again, if we go back, felony pertains to all crimes punishable under the revised penal code, with the exemption of some. So, acts of lasciviousness, rebellion, murder, all of those are punishable under the revised penal codes. On the other hand, illegal drug trafficking is punishable by a special law or by a special law. So, specifically, acts of lasciviousness is punishable under Article 336 of the revised penal codes. On the other hand, rebellion is punishable by Article 134 of the revised penal code. And murder is punishable by Article 248. On the other hand, illegal drug trafficking is punishable by Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Drug Act of 2002. So A, B, and C are all felonies. Letter D is an offense under the Philippine setting or under the Philippine classification of crimes. So what is not classified as an offense? Okay? So what is not classified as an offense? Okay? Again, we go back. Offense is punishable by a revised penal code. So robbery is not an offense because it is punishable by the revised penal code. And cybercrime is punishable by a special law a special penal law, that is Republic Act 101/75, or the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. On the other hand, human trafficking is punishable under under the Republic Act 9208, Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2003. And terrorism, on the other hand, it is punishable by Republic Act 11479, the very controversial law that we have today. Of course, it repealed the Republic Act 9372, the Human Security Act of 2007. So, robbery is punishable by Article 293 of the Revised Penal Code. So, according to Emily Durkheim, he believes that crime is a social phenomenon. He believes that crime is a normal thing in our society. That's why he said that if there are crimes, Emil Durkheim said that no problem because that's normal. Okay, that's the idea of David Emil Durkheim, normality of crime. He said that criminality is a normal factor rather than a pathological one. In other words, it is not basically based from the sinful nature of man or the tendency of man to commit crime, but rather he said that a society with criminal activities is a normal society, or a society without crimes, it is an abnormal society. That's according to Emil Durkheim. Crime is found in all societies. That's the idea of Emil Durkheim. Crime is normal because a society exempt from it is utterly impossible. So it's impossible, according to him, that a society having no crime is an impossible. And the fundamental conditions of social organization logically imply it. In other words, societies are created especially to, we call it, to have an order, or there should be a maintenance of order. So the idea of maintenance of order speaks about the possibility of disorder, the possibility of criminal activity. Okay, so that is the fundamental, we call it, or the basis why societies are organized. Okay, so crime is not due to any imperfection of human nature, as we have mentioned a while back, that man is sinful. Man has a sinful nature and he has the tendency to commit crime. But according to him, no, criminality is not based on the weaknesses of man, but rather it is part of the society. Any more than birth or death may be considered abnormal or pathological. So crime is not due to any imperfection of human nature or society, and any more than birth or death may be considered abnormal or pathological. In other words, he's saying that if you are saying that man is by birth a criminal or has that sinful nature, he said that that's not okay. That's wrong. That's abnormal. That's according to Emil Durkheim. Further, he said that it is all part of the totality of society. So, according to Emil Durkheim, if there is no crime, okay, we cannot consider that as a society. To complete a society, there must be abnormal activities. There must be criminal activities. That is according to Durkheim. He further said that a society exempt from it, meaning if that society has no crime, it would necessitate a standardization of the moral concepts of all individuals, which is neither possible nor desirable. Meaning, he is saying that it would be impossible to come up with a standard moral concept of all people in that society. Meaning, he is saying that there is the setting of moral standard because of the possibility of immoral activity. That is the idea of Durkheim. So, why the need to come up with the standardization of morality or moral concept if there is no problem of immorality? That's the idea of Durkheim. That's why he said that people are setting laws, they are setting moral concept, they are setting standard morals, they are setting norms because of the possibility of immoral and abnormal things. So crime is not only normal for society, but it is necessary because without crime, there could be no evolution in law. In other words, the laws that we have will become stagnant if there are no crime. So the purposes of these laws basically is to answer problems of criminality. Question number 7. In analysis, the etiological theory set forth by Abrahamsen's crime formula. So when you say etiological, meaning in your study of Introduction to Criminology, etiology means it's the origin, it's the cause. So the origin or the causational theory that is set forth by Abrahamsen's crime formula is more of what you call psychological. It's more about we call it, it's more about the abnormality in the thinking of human beings. So when you say physiological, you are referring to the by nature tendency of man to commit crime. When you say sociological, you are referring to the crime being committed, which is the crime is committed by reason of the social process that we have. And when you speak of environmental causes, we are referring to uh, either physical or natural environment or social environment factors contributing to criminal activities. So this is David Abrahamsen's theory of the etiology of crime. So according to him, crime is equals letter T, criminal tendency, plus social plus total situation over resistance to temptations. So what is that criminal tendency? Well, according to, we call it David Abrahamsen, all of us have that antisocial tendency, meaning we have the tendency to go against the norms of the society, meaning we have the tendency to commit deviancy or to commit delinquency. These are aggressive tendencies that is present or that are present in all men. So there is no excuse. Whether you are a man or a woman, a child or an adult, you have the tendency to be aggressive. And we have that aggressive inclinations of indirect nature. Projection, say for example, we blame others, we go against others, that is rebellious hostility towards anyone. We protest, okay, or because of our excessive motor activity, somehow accordingly, we have that tendency to commit aggression against other people. And a criminal act does not take place solely because of the release of repressed aggressions, but may occur also because the offender has built up a defense of aggression. In other words, he is saying that we have that ability to repress, meaning to stop our aggressive aggression, meaning there are instances that we are thinking of harming somebody else, we are thinking of doing evil to another person, but somehow we have that ability to repress or to stop or to inhibit ourselves in doing that. However, he's saying that there are instances that we are also forced to harm others because we have built up a defense of aggression. What about the total situation? Well, the total situation speaks about situation or the setting. It could be the society. It could be the setting of that group or that time when the crime was committed. And it is an indeterminate factor in mobilizing the criminal act. When you say indeterminate factor, meaning you cannot determine that particular situation. It could be, we call it, it could be um, initiated by quarrel, it could be initiated by envy, it could be initiated by argument, like that. So that could not be determined, indeterminate. No? You cannot really pinpoint what is that kind of situation that may make a person to commit a criminal act. As each person has a unique psychological makeup, it follows that only he can achieve a particular aim in a given environment. So meaning, people have different psychological makeup. Some may have the tendency, or some may have the greater control of their bad temperaments. Some may control their emotions, some may not. So that would be dependent on the situation, the total situation. And there are instances that even a person has the capability of controlling his emotion or temperament. So if the situation is very harsh, then that person may lose his temper. The resistance to temptation, well, simply we can say that it could be within your mind, or it could be within your morality. You can resist temptation. But on the explanation of David Abrahamsen, he's saying that that is your ability to control your negative emotions. That is what I'm telling a while back. Okay, so if your ability to control your negative emotion, your bad temperament, your anger or emotion is greater than your tendency to commit crime, and the situation uh, and the situation in that time, then you will never commit crime, or you cannot commit crime. But if your ability to control your temperament or your anger is lesser than the total situation and your tendency to commit crime, then according to David Abrahamsen, you are uh, most likely to commit a criminal act. Personality reactions in criminals are comparable to those found in a disease, meaning our psychological reactions is just like a disease according to we call it to Abrahamsen. A disease has a symptom. No? It has a symptoms or symptoms. These are the manifestations. Just like if you are infected with COVID-19, what are the symptoms of that disease? Well, obviously you will have a high body temperature, fever, flu, okay, coughing, and pneumonia. Those are the manifestations. So uh, Abrahamsen is we call it comparing that psychological disease or our personality reactions, just like a disease, that there is what you call a manifestation. There is a symptom of that. And a higher incidence of psychosomatic disorders is to be found in the family constellation of the offender than in the family members of psychotic or neurotic patients. He is saying that our tendency or our mental, we call it our psychological disorder, okay, in which we cannot control our emotions, okay, is basically greater on the family of those of the offender, meaning somehow that particular psychological disorder is inherited. That's according to Abrahamsen. Just like, say for example, if you go to the doctor, normally the doctor will ask you if you have a history of history of diabetes, or history of cancer, history of high blood pressure, like that, because like a disease, no, those diseases, uh, they are inherited from, of course, from your ancestors, and most likely that if your parents um, are or suffered, or if your parents are we call it with diabetics or with cancer, like that, there is a great possibility that the offsprings, the children, will inherit those kind of diseases. So same thing, Abraham is saying that psychological disorder can also be, we call it, inherited or can be passed down. Okay, so and psychological order also can also be passed down. So he's trying to point out that people who have that ability to control their emotions and control their thinking, they have that greater tendency to, or they have that greater resistance to temptation. That's why, according to Abrahamsen, those people are less possible to commit crimes. So in your module, you have that case analysis. Identify the type of crime classification. A fired at C and C was hit on the shoulder. But C's wound was not mortal, meaning it is not, it will not cause death. Okay, it will not cause death. But what A then did was to approach C and told C, "Now you are dead. I will kill you." So when he shot C, the wound was not mortal. Meaning, when you say mortal, it will cause death. So it is not deadly. It is not fatal. However, okay, A approached C and told C that, "Now you are dead, I will kill you." So there is now that intent to kill. Although the wound was not mortal, but because of the word uttered by A that he is going to kill C, then there is now that what you call intent to kill. However, A took pity and kept the revolver and left. So what crime has been committed? Is it attempted, frustrated, or consummated? Okay? So there is that intent to kill. Okay? So there was that intent to kill. However, A did not continue to kill the person. So it was a case of what you call, it was not consummated, or meaning consummated is it is not completed. Okay? So attempted is the felony is commenced by an overt act, but not all the acts of execution were performed. So the intended felony was not completed. On the other hand, frustrated is that all the acts of execution necessary to commit the felony were performed, but the felony was not completed, okay, by reason, okay, or by reason beyond the control of the perpetrator. So consummated is that all of the acts of execution was committed, or all the acts necessary to commit the crime is committed, and the felony was completed. So that is completed or consummated crime. So in here, the answer is felony, because it is, we call it punishable by the revised penal code. It is attempted homicide. Why attempted homicide? Well, there was no, or the wound was not fatal. It was not mortal. However, there was an intent to kill, because A approached C and he said that, "I'm going to kill you." Only that, okay, he did not continue his act of killing C because of pity. Therefore, not all the acts of execution were performed to commit that homicide. So, it is only an attempted homicide. If there is no intent to kill, then it will become physical injuries. The resistance was with the second shot and would not affect the first shot, because the first shot had already hit C. The second attempt has nothing to do with the first. So it is only an attempted homicide. Okay? Okay, so we have further insights on crimes and sins. Is there a crime without a crime scene? Well, of course, there are. No? We have libel, we have swindling, estafa. Crime scene is not necessary here, because you do not need to collect evidence from the crime scene, but rather the statements of these people are already, we call it, sufficient to prove that there is libel, or there is swindling, or estafa. What else? Is sin a crime? Well, we have already discussed that. Not all sins are crimes unless there is a law that punishes the same. However, all crimes are sins. Example, when you think killing someone but there is no physical act that you did the same, there is no crime, but you have committed sin already. So that is in the biblical perspective. But there is no crime, as we have already discussed. Okay? So that is the topic for the formula of crime causation, understanding the classification of crimes, and the crime formula by Abrahamsen. Okay, so once again, thank you for viewing and listening.